DirtFish Rally friends, and welcome to A Time to Talk. It's our new feature. It's a new program that myself and David Evans will be bringing you periodically. Can't promise how often, but periodically, where we get the chance to sit down in these wonderful surroundings in the FORZO studios and discuss what's happening in the world of rallying. So what are we going to bring you today? Well, we are going to talk about a former winner returning to the World Rally Championship. We're also going to talk about a rally that perhaps some would judge to be one of the greatest in the world. And we are going to talk about a former winner of the championship, a former winner in the championship, dusting down his overalls, David, for what could be quite an interesting return to rallying. We are also, on a more serious note, we are going to be talking to one of our friends who is unfortunately bunkered down in Kyiv right now. And we will be bringing you, hopefully if we can get hold of him. Communications, as you would imagine, are quite difficult with Kyiv right now. But if we can get hold of him, we will be bringing you a word or two with him later on in the programme. David, it's a very exciting programme, this, isn't it?
It is. For our British viewers, I feel a little bit like Philip Schofield. That leaves you as Holly Willoughby, which is, what's that thing called? This morning.
This morning. We need a theme tune. Camera boy, can you work on a theme tune for us? Do you think so? Yeah, I think you can.
You're not very attractive.
There's a nod in the head. Listen, so we talked about your return to the World Rally Championship for past winner.
Yeah.
Hayden Paddon, David. Really good news this morning.
Great news. Absolutely great news. News that really is long overdue, isn't it? Paddon's been... I can't. Which year was it that he lost his drive? We clearly should have done a little bit more research.
Goodness me, it was 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it?
It was, and he was obviously had to go back to New Zealand and kind of not restart his career, but just try to continue his career.
Oh no, I think that's reasonable to say restart his career. You know, he was pretty well dropped, wasn't he?
He was,
and he had to find a purpose. He wanted to keep rallying. He had to find a purpose, and he's been very busy. But I'll tell you what we'll do before we discuss that. Let's hear from Hayden, and let's hear about his plans for this year and in particular for next year.
Hyundai New Zealand is the whole catalyst behind everything we're doing here. You know, we've been together for 8 years through the highs and lows of WRC, and they've had my back the whole way. And you know, together we've come up with this concept and idea to go, okay, let's go back and do this ourselves. We'll do this on our terms and do it the Kiwi way. And that support is so humbling. Also means we've got to deliver. You know, we're here to try and win and deliver results. But together, that's what we're here to do. Yeah, it's all about a strategy that we've got in place and doing it step by step. So, although the internal self of me, would like to be super competitive and go out there and be winning straight away, we're being realistic, knowing that it's been a couple of years. We've got to build ourselves back into it. We've got to learn a whole new car. We've got to develop the car, but also the team. You know, a lot of our team haven't done any rallying overseas before, so we've got to get the whole team building up and working together so we can collectively come out and be very competitive in 23.
Well, really exciting news indeed from Hayden Padden. David, you know what? He's been a bit unlucky in his career, I think, Hayden Padden, but he's got resilience, hasn't he? He bounces back. He was dropped by Hyundai, and he did go back to New Zealand, and he absolutely immersed himself in New Zealand rallying, the electric program in particular.
Yeah, he has got resilience, Cole, but he's got tenacity, and it's
same thing, isn't it?
It is kind of the same thing, but he's just got. For me, the big thing with Hayden Padden is an absolute determination, which you do tend to find with Kiwis. You know, they're a little bit further away. Yeah. They are resourceful people, and that's exactly what he is. You know, he's gone back, and I've had the pleasure of going down to his premises in Cromwell, just outside of Queenstown. And it's incredible. Yeah. You know, it's just spectacular. It wouldn't disgrace a manufacturer to look. You know, it's obviously not that big, but it's all there.
It's a small team he's got, but it's a really, really focused and determined team. Very young and energetic, as you say, team. And you're quite right. You know, you look back at Padden's career, and he had to work twice as hard to make his way from, the youngest ever winner of the New Zealand Rally Championship. I remember being there because we were there, and I think we were based in Auckland at the time. To then find the budget, to find the backing, to bring him all the way to Europe, and he's always had massive talent. But was he unlucky? Didn't he? What do we think? Did he not make the most of the opportunity he was given? Was he unlucky? Was it just rallying? That's the way it works. I don't know.
It can be the way it works, but if you look back to 16. he won Argentina,
Yeah.
didn't he? And let's not forget, that wasn't a win handed to him on a plate. That was a final day fight, a scrap between
final
him,
stage fights.
between
El
him
Condor.
and yeah, I mean, and what kind of a stage to go into today? You know, the most technical, difficult, tricky stage in the world, and he beat Sébastien Ogier fair and square, absolutely fair and square. To go from there, you know, that for me was when Hayden was on the crest of his wave, and at that point, there was definitely a switch in the Hyundai team for at least 2 years. That had been Thierry's team. He'd been building it through 14 and 15. At that time, Thierry his head was everywhere, and you know there were people that were predicting that he was finished in that team.
It was Thierry that was going, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally.
You know?
And Hayden was absolutely in the ascendancy, couldn't do any wrong. And then was it, I think, did he then have the fire in Portugal? He then had a couple of really difficult events. And it didn't quite go his way, but he was still in the thick of it through the rest of 16. The start of 17, of course, was the tragic accident in Monte Carlo. And I don't think that car really suited Hayden. I don't think Hayden ever got the chance that he deserved to bring the car to himself. And very quickly, he was put onto a part program, sharing a seat with Sordo. I do think that Hayden was harshly treated. I think that they got it wrong. I think if they'd left him in the seat, given him more love and support and put an arm around him, he would have got there. And I think he could have been a regular WRC winner. And potentially, could he have been a world champion? I don't know.
I totally agree with you on that. I think there was a mistake there made at Hyundai, because it was quite clear, and it has evidently since been very clear, that car and Hyundai in general, the 2017 car, was not easy to drive. You know, you could ask Loeb, you can ask Sordo, clearly Mikkelsen, Padden. Wasn't an easy car to master. The one who mastered it, and he's adapted his driving style, he's had various parts of the car built around him, is Neuville. Anyone else that's got into that car has found it very difficult. What we know about Padden is he's one of the brightest, most adaptable drivers out there. He understands cars. He understands engineering. He understands dynamics. He would have got to grips with that car, but part-time, you're never going to get to grips with it.
No, and because, you know, the way that the testing regulations are, you have to be entered for the event to qualify for a day of testing, or you know, it's common sense. But I agree completely that they didn't give him a good enough run in that car, and they lost faith far too quickly for me. And you know, I'm sure that there would be perhaps an element of the team that would question Hayden's ability to bounce back from, you know, what is every driver's nightmare in Monte Carlo. But we saw him in Sweden. You know, he has that resilience that we've already touched upon. You know, and he's a guy that deserves another chance.
He is. Well, and the question then has to be, David, what can we expect from him? You know, we've got this announcement of 3 events this year, 3 really fast events. He's being brave to come back for Estonia, Finland and New Zealand with a full tilt at the WRC2 next year. You're shaking your head.
Shaking my head, Cole, because you've been to the South Island of New Zealand.
Yeah,
You've seen, Geraldine, where Hayden's from, there's some pretty quick bits of gravel road down there.
No question. And that electric car that he's developed is unbelievably quick.
Yeah.
But you know, we're talking about competition of the highest level. We're talking about the Mikkelsens of this world that he'll be expecting to compete against and to beat. That he doesn't have that element of real close competition in New Zealand.
He doesn't.
He can go fast, but he can go fast within a limit. And I think, you know, the speed won't necessarily scare him, but the speed, the constant speed for 18, 19, 20 stages, the battle with the likes of Mikkelsen and other very, very quick drivers, it might take a little bit of getting used to again.
It will, I'm sure it will, because, you know, he'll arrive into Estonia with good seat time. You know, testing is not so much of a problem for Hayden, but he will have been running the AP4 car, he'll have run the electric car. It's all good seat time. And, you know, who are we now to question the relevance of moving from one car to another when Sébastien Loeb comes out of Dakar and goes to Monte Carlo in a totally different car and wins Monte, you know? So seat time is important. He'll have that, but I think you're right. It will be difficult to just extract that. Having said that, you know, when you're in these really high-speed events, you know, you pull a big gear and you sit there, and it's about the bravery, isn't it? You know, there's not so many junctions, not so many medium to slow speed corners where you can make the time being later on the brakes or...
I think it'll be challenging. I really do think it'll be challenging. I think he'll do well.
But this year's it's about the build-up, isn't
Correct.
it? It's three events, and then full 7-round program next year.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to say this, Cole,
Go on.
and I am going to be, it's a little bit controversial, but
Never. David Evans, a little bit controversial.
just a wee bit.
Oh.
But Hayden Padden, by the start of 2023, will be absolutely ready for a 7-round WRC2 program. My bigger question is, will that car be good enough for him to win?
I don't think there's
Let's not-
anything
let's not
controversial
forget-
about that.
Let's not forget we got a new Skoda coming in the
Yeah.
end of this year.
Yeah.
And the Skoda's, or you know, right now it's not far off the car to
And
beat.
who's developing that Skoda? Mickelson
Yeah,
and Chris Meek. I mean, it will be magnificent. There is no question.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of resource in Skoda Motorsport to develop the car. So that for me could be the difficulty.
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. You know, the Hyundai is not as good as we hoped it would be, and we really all did hope it would be. This new generation of Hyundai, it would be a match for the.
But you know,
Skoda.
there would be
It's not.
people out there. Sorry to jump in.
You
I
do
did
it
a
all
little
the
bit.
time.
I do it all the time. I wasn't in Sweden. I missed the opportunity to keep talking over you. So I've
Angry
got to-
Peacock never jumped in. Did you know? Did you watch our videos?
He's very polite.
Never jumped in. He's a really
Anthony's
polite
far more
young man.
polite
He's
than me.
wonderful.
But there might be people out there wondering, you know, why is Hayden, after all this time, why is he sticking
That's
with
a
the
very
Hyundai?
good question.
And it's this deal that he had from the start of 14 when he arrived at the Hyundai team. He forged such a strong link with Hyundai New Zealand.
It's quite remarkable.
And it is.
The
And
backing.
he's, you know, it's easy to just toss away the line that he's a brand ambassador. He's that, but he's so much more. You know, he's integral now to everything that Hyundai New Zealand does.
And when you look at the budget that Hyundai New Zealand are putting behind this effort, you know, they're taking a whole team of engineers. So it is
Yeah.
a New Zealand team. They're not.
yeah.
They're not going and subcontracting some
satellite thing
European
or
team.
anything.
You know,
No,
they're taking
it's their
all their own
team.
engineers, mechanics,
Yeah, it's
people
a lot
with
of
them.
money.
It's a fantastic effort, and do you know what? It's what made, in some ways, the IRC so brilliant. You had
Yeah.
national importers getting right behind their brands, right
Mm-hmm.
behind their drivers, and you know, more importers like Hyundai New Zealand, and WRC2 would be in a great place.
Absolutely.
It's not in a bad place. I have to say, it's not in a bad place. So I tell you what, it is great news. You know, Padden has unfinished business in the World Rally Championship. I am not writing off the chance of Padden getting back into that Hyundai World Rally car. I can see, and I think a lot of people can see potentially a vacancy within that team. You know, like Tanak for me is one unhappy customer right now.
I can't imagine that there's any happy customers in that team
No,
right now. It's a
no,
team.
no.
They're struggling.
Yeah, they are struggling. So, you know, potentially, and Padden knows that. Padden knows that. If he goes, blows the opposition away in a couple of rounds this year and then next year, he puts himself back in the shop. And he's not too old. He's 35 years old, remember. So
No, he's not too old. But
You know?
and also the big thing to remember is that New Zealand, that kind of Australasian market is massive
Oh, yeah.
for Hyundai. So you know, there's a lot of interest in Korea, and from what I can understand, Hayden always maintained really good and has maintained really good links with the Koreans. So it would be a magnificent story, wouldn't it, to put him in a car in New Zealand?
it would be wonderful.
So if anybody's watching from Hyundai in Seoul, please do the decent
It would
thing.
potentially make an awful lot of sense as well.
It
An
would.
awful lot of sense. You know, we haven't been to New Zealand for years. You know, Padden knows the roads that Rally New Zealand run on like the back of his hand.
Totally.
Makes absolute sense. Anyway, we'll wait and see what happens there, folks. Great news that Hayden Padden is
Don't
making a
forget,
welcome.
just one more thing.
One more thing, if I missed David Evans.
One more thing. You know, crucial to the current generation of cars is using the regen, understanding the way the power's delivered. What's he spent the last few years doing?
Developing an electric car. He's
Yeah.
got it, hasn't he?
Yeah,
He's got it. There we go. Great news, Hayden Padden. We're all delighted. We're all 100% behind you and your Kiwi friends, and we can't wait to welcome you back to Europe later on this year. Now, David, I teased the return of a rally, a previous rally winner in the WRC, a man who's not had his rally overalls on, I believe, for 15 or 16 years, making a return to one of what is most people's favourite rally.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people, not most, a lot of people's favourite rally in the championship. I'm talking about, obviously, Harry Rovanpera making a return to the Rally of Nations in Mexico.
Yeah,
How exciting is the project?
It's tremendously exciting, isn't it?
Oh, wait a minute. How excited is Harry? Let's hear from him.
Yeah, that is really nice to go back there. And okay, that is I'm first VRC driver in Mexico 20 years ago, and I think so. That is reason is like I coming back.
What are your memories of 20 years ago? Because you were the first top driver to go out there. What are your memories of going out there, of the roads, of the fans, of Mexico?
20 years ago is a long time. Okay, of course I can remember many good things, and of course that is a new rally, new country, and this rally funds and everything and organization, how it's working is that it's big surprise for me. It's 20 years ago and still same, and of course it's, I'm happy fans like to see me again there.
He is excited, David. I know sometimes with Finns it's difficult to tell, but he is excited, isn't he?
Harry is excited, undoubtedly. And, you know, one of the things that I really love about Harry's kind of interest in Mexico is that he was there in the beginning in 2002. It wasn't the first Rally Mexico to run out of Leon, but it was one of the early ones, and it was kind of a sort of a dress rehearsal / kind of candidate event. And he fell in love with the place. He and, you know, the likes of Patrick Suberville, Gilles Spitalier, these guys at the top end of the event, they fell in love with him. And, you know, the warmth with which they talk about it, I couldn't imagine, you know, Harry said he hasn't really competed for at least 10 years. There's not a lot that would have got him back in a rally car.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it?
And,
really?
and he's doing it. And it's not easy to get back. And, you know, Mexico, Rally of Nations Guanajuato, is not an easy...
Say that again.
Guanajuato. It's not... Come on, you give us your go.
Guanajuato. No, that's under Italian. How about just Guanajuato?
So our great friend who sadly departed, Martin Holmes.
Yes.
One of the most well-read journalists in the world. He just had this great approach to not even going anywhere near the sort of Spanish Guanajuato, and would just say in his very Surrey accent, Guanajuato. Sorry, Martin, we are laughing with you. So yeah, just brilliant news to see Harry back there. He's a pretty quiet fella, but he's a sincerely nice guy, and I'm sure, you know, if you can win Rally Sweden 21 years ago, you've still got a bit of speed about you.
Well, I've got no doubt. I'm really looking forward to seeing
It'd be
him
quicker
with the
than you
ovals.
and I.
Much quicker than you and I. Strangely, they've not invited me to represent Scotland.
Really?
I am astonished. I am astonished. Yeah, me and David Bogie expected the call. It never came.
Probably something to do with... Elliot, do you want to tell us something about that moment in
No, move
Sweden?
on. Move on. Let's talk about good things and Mexico. David, you know, it is one of those rallies that, you know, there's always colour. There's always stories to tell. There's always a great competition. You know, in the past, they've had 20 entries, which you know, is nothing, sadly. But no one ever talks about, if you like, the lack of cars, because there's always so much goes on in Mexico with the competition at the top, the WRC2.
It's an adventure.
It's an adventure.
You almost
correct.
don't need the competition, because just to go there, to go out the back of Leon and up into the hills. I was going to try Guanajuato again, I won't.
Guanajuato. Up
Exactly.
at the back of the hills.
You know, and you and I have been there on stop lines in the middle of nowhere, and all, you know, out spectating, and you look 360 degrees, there's nobody, and then 5 minutes later, there's a cowboy arrives on horseback with a huge machete to chop down any European people or any Scottish people that get on his nerves. It's actually to get rid of the cacti.
Cactus. You have the cactuses in
Cacti.
Cacti.
Is plural, is it?
I don't know. You're the wordsmith.
Yeah. But it's just it is a huge adventure, and
fair play to the organisers as well, David. You know, clearly Mexico has become an integral part of the championship, and it's 2 years ago since we had that truncated event when COVID first reared its ugly head. They're desperate to get back in again. They want people to see what they can do, to be reminded of what they can do, and they're putting on this tremendous event. It's, you know, in a time where we're talking about 6 or 7 or 8 weeks till the next rally, it's a welcome addition.
It is 100%, Colin. And you know, the investment that's going in, they're bringing drivers out there. You know, we've seen that Mads Ostberg has been announced as well in the Norwegian team. They're finding cars for all these people. It's not an easy job, and it's a demonstration of just how focused they are in getting back to WRC in 2023. And at the minute, you know, for me, one of the great sort of sadnesses in the championship this year is that we're not going to the Americas. You know, there's nothing in North America. There's no Chile. There's no Argentina. No Mexico. We need to be back. You know, it's a whole side of the world that we're missing out on. So, you know, hats off to the Mexicans, to Patrick and to Gilles for what they're doing, and and hopefully we can see them back next year.
Yeah. And obviously DirtFish will be there covering the Rally of Nations. It's really great because I've never covered something where drivers are driving for their countries as opposed to themselves. It's a different approach. It's going to be a lot of fun. What are you looking forward to in particular, David? Anything other than perhaps
that Argentinian restaurant in Mexico?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Well, we go to Mexico and we look forward to going to an Argentinian restaurant.
It's a great restaurant. But actually, no, what I am genuinely looking forward to
is it? I don't know.
It's bound to be.
I think I might have just made that up.
Absolutely, the thing that I go to Mexico every year for is the ceremonial start and that first stage. We talk about it. We've talked about it for 20 years, but until you get into the centre of that crowd, you cannot believe it. You know, it moves you to tears almost. The emotion and the passion in there is sensational.
Outside the Teatro de Juarez.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I had bad memories though of our trip to Guanajuato last time. You were very sulky.
I was
very miserable. Very
Honestly,
miserable.
I don't know what came over me.
Yeah,
I was
rude.
just, we did a little piece outside the Teatro de Juarez.
Very rude.
And genuinely I was. But here's the thing. I was man enough to apologise.
Were you?
I did, straight away.
Not on camera though.
Anyway.
Apologise now.
But do you know what annoyed me about that is that I said to our editor at the time, I said, get rid of that, we're not using that. Within 10 minutes it was up on YouTube.
Yes.
Anyway, we are very much looking forward to covering
I shouldn't put my foot there, should I? Because I'm
you're
putting my foot in
watch.
and
Your watch,
great.
my watch, looking nice, aren't they?
Very
DirtFish
nice.
watches.
Very nice.
Now, the other thing we wanted to talk about, David.
Yeah.
And again, you know, we have this gap to fill, but it's being brilliantly filled by, on the one hand, the Rally of Nations, and then perhaps the greatest rally in the world never to have featured in the World Rally Championship. Perhaps, arguably.
Are we going back to Mull?
We're not going back to Mull quite yet. So the second greatest rally in the world.
Joint first.
Joint first rally, greatest rally in the world, never to have featured in the World Rally Championship, David Evans. Jeez, complicate things for me.
Is
the Otago Rally in the South Island of New Zealand, based out of Dunedin. It's not really biased, unfair. It's not, and you know I'm quite a dramatic, over-the-top person. It's none of those things to describe it as one of the greatest rallies. I was very fortunate to be out there a few years ago, and it is just magnificent for many reasons.
Firstly, it's a fantastic part of the world.
Dunedin,
New Zealand,
little Edinburgh,
absolutely,
little Dundee, little something.
It's the Gaelic word for Edinburgh, which is Dunedin, something like that. So, but New Zealand, just any excuse ever to go to New Zealand. But then also, you know, most people go to New Zealand and spend a lot of time in Auckland, in the North Island. Yeah. Then you go to the South Island, it's bound to be Queenstown, that kind of Wanaka all around there. But actually Dunedin. And Dunedin
the whole
and
Otago
Christchurch,
region.
just fantastic
Just
places.
beautiful. And I tell you what, you know, we're talking about rallying, obviously. And it is a beautiful place to go to any time of the year. But for the rally itself, you have some of the greatest roads and stages.
Yeah. And quite different, Cole, to the Northland
and
to
and
not
there's a little bit
Cambered.
more topography. There's a great stage called Kuri Bush.
Yeah.
And it's like a classic Finland stage, but narrower and with more topography. Does that make sense? Not really, but it is. It's just beautifully flowing and fast, and it goes through some of the most sensational countryside. If you get the chance, Kuri Bush, Kuri Bush. Look
Two
up
words.
Hayden Paddon. Yep, Hayden Paddon's on board from that stage.
Is this the 2015
Correct.
onboard?
Oh, it is.
Elliot,
just...
we can run that in. We can run his onboard in.
Here you go. Let's have a quick look at that now. Let's have a quick look.
Slight mid crest, 40. Back short, 6.5 right in the max, 5 left plus. 80, fast 5 right. 30, hold max, 6 left over crest. Opens long, 5 ins high, 4 plus. 60. Flat 6 right plus over crest, 100. Fast 4 through right, open, straightens. 80. Flat 6 left cut, 50. Flat 6 right over crest early. 50, max 7 left, 100. High 4 right plus over crest dips. Crest, 80. Through left. 30. Slide 3 right plus opens very long, straightens. Lip. Long 5 4 left, late.
Right. If you want more of that, go to YouTube. Oh my God.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's not just that. Clearly, the rallying is important. The stage is mega important. But for me, it's the New Zealand rally community.
Yeah.
You go there, and the year I went, I think there were 40-something Mark II escorts, beautifully prepared Mark II escorts. And, the competition in the Mark II escorts and the classics was as hotly contested and as keenly followed as the guys at the front. And at the front, you had some magnificent cars. They have regulations that allow rally enthusiasts to go and build the most incredible cars.
Do you know, in that 2015 that we just shown you the clip from, Hayden Paddon actually won the international event, the Otago, not the classic, the whole thing. He beat Mitsubishi by 2.7 seconds. Yeah. It was the same year that Ken Block went in that HHFV, the superstar sort of Fiesta, the mad Fiesta. And Hayden actually still managed to beat, I think, sorry Ken if I got this wrong, but he beat Ken on one stage. Ken retired with some mechanical issue. But it is just incredible.
Sensational.
It is.
And it's incredible. It wasn't 2015 I was there 2016 or 2017, can't remember. The years blend into each other. It might even have been later than that. But here's the thing for me, and I mentioned it there briefly. It is the New Zealand rally community. We are just at the start of, in the middle of, maybe by the time you see this, Women's Month on DirtFish.com. Which is a tremendous initiative, and every day there are features, videos, podcasts about women who have accomplished in motorsport. What absolutely blew me away about the Otago Rally when I was there were the number of women competing, and I added it up at the end of the event, and it was very close to 40% of the entry list was either ladies driving the cars, ladies co-driving, and a lot of that was families. I met this beautiful family. I remember saying, I'm flying back to Australia from Auckland, and I'm going to stay in a hotel near the airport. And they went, no, you're not. You're coming to stay with us. Mum was a co-driver, Dad was a co-driver, 15-year-old son was a co-driver, and he had about 20 rallies under his belt at 15, and the 17-year-old daughter was a co-driver. A family, and for me in New Zealand, and I don't know, they've got it right, rallying becomes a family event. It's not as if Dad says, see ya, I'm off for the weekend to go rallying, or Mum says, kids, off you go to your grands for the weekend. Everyone comes along, everyone gets involved. The atmosphere there is just second to none, in my opinion.
Totally. And it's a great lead in as well, isn't it, with Otago too? What is going to be a big year for New Zealand rallying.
It is definitely worth following, folks. As I say, there's not an awful lot else going on in the world of rallying before we get to Croatia. Follow all our coverage. There'll be video coverage, written coverage, previews of the Otago Rally. If you haven't as yet discovered it, now is the time to discover the Otago Rally, because once you do discover it, you'll never forget it. There's that wonderful car, isn't there? That wonderful escort.
Yeah.
Black Beauty, I think they call her, don't they?
Yeah. Obviously, the original Black Beauty was Ari's car.
Yeah, it's not Black Beauty that they call her.
Maybe, I don't know. But
no, they call her something. I've forgotten the name. I should know.
It's this one RS 1800 Mark II Escort that's been driven by Jimmy McRae, Michel Mouton,
Harry Vatanen,
all of these incredible people.
Mads Osberg. Mikko Hirvonen was due to drive it and didn't last year. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. And that car used to be, originally it was a right-hand drive car. When they got Michelle to come out for the event, she said, yes, I'd love to come, but I don't drive right-hand drive cars. So they converted it to left-hand drive, and they've left it as a left-hand drive car, because most top-line rally drivers these days are left-hand drive. So keep an eye out for that, folks. That really is going to be an interesting week down south in the southern part of New Zealand for the Otago Rally. So, David, the other thing that we wanted to talk about, the other matter that we wanted to discuss today was our friend Pavel Cherepin, who competed regularly with Yurir Protasov in WRC2 in the early noughties, I suppose you would say.
And more recently.
It's been around for quite a number of years. I was very fortunate in that I caught up with Pavel in very, very difficult circumstances. Here's my interview with him. Pavel, I have to say, first of all, I've got to ask, how are you? How are your family?
Well, I would love to say that we are in safety mode, speaking in a rally language, but actually it is not, because, I just realized that I don't know what day and what date is it today. I only know that it is the 8th day of Ukrainian resistance and 8th day of Russian invasion into my country. And since 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 days ago, we are in total danger. Well, actually, I'm staying with my family in Kyiv, near the railway station, central railway station. In the second day of war, rocket missile, got into civil building less than 1 kilometer from my house. Tonight, rocket missile who was targeting to the railway station where women and old people were trying to evacuate from Kyiv. So the missile hit the parking of central railway station. It is directly 700 meters from our house. So yeah, well, but still we have energy. Yeah, we have power. We have power in both ways. Yeah, we have power in our apartments, and we have internet to speak with you, to spread this information. But at the same time, we have power to as a nation. You know, because I guess today Ukrainians proved that we are like proper part and proper members of civilized community of this world.
But Pavel, how are your children coping? What are you telling your children? How are they coping on a day-to-day basis?
Well, of course, we explain them that this is a war, that bad people came to take something not belonging to them, something they want to, but something which is ours. They became older during this week. I don't know. Excuse me. For many years. But sometimes they tell us something very like grown-up children tell. We have 2 kids. It's 7 and 5, and 5 years old told me that he has a game now, like all 5 years old have, that he's a kitten, and he told me 2 days ago that if bad people, it is a quote. Daddy, Daddy, if bad people from Russia come to our apartment, I, as a kitten, will scratch them totally.
Goodness
so
me.
This is 5 years old guy.
Goodness me, that is very difficult. That's very difficult to hear. I'm sure it's very difficult to actually have to face with your children. What are you doing to stay safe, Pavel? What are you doing to keep your children safe? How much can you protect yourself?
So I have, thanks to rally community, motorsports community, I have huge support from all over the world, and from different people from different countries, except 2 countries. Yeah, no one from Russia or Belarus. No one from people who I was racing with or racing against. Made a proper, distinct, big boss position. They all hide to their, I don't know. Maybe they now in a queues to cash machines because they will have no money soon because of sanctions or something like this. But they are really cowards. I can tell it to every one of the guys. Lukyariuk, Grazin. All that guys, they are not motorsports people. They are people who are afraid, who are cowards. They do not make positions. Even guys who are, actors or some comedy actors in Russia made official letter to the government, stop war, etc. Russian motorsport, it's okay for them. Russian football players, it's okay for them. They will soon have races on a cows or on horses, I don't know, but it's okay for them, So this is what is paining. Yeah, we arranged according to Israel safety protocols. We arranged our everyday life, and also I'm pushing on information in information front. I'm making this information to be spread all over the world, where I can spread it with your help as well, with with the help of Maciek Szczepaniak, with the help of Martin Jarviola, with good friends from Estonia and Poland. So we are pushing on FIA to stop, to cancel all Russians from world motorsports. We are trying to make life of our neighbors a little bit easier. Yeah. Also, I'm patrolling the streets few hours a week, a few hours a day. Well, I have legal weapon in Ukraine, but well, it is with me. Yeah, and I'm not even hunter. You know, I'm not military man. But if I will need, I will put weapon and go to the street to stop Russian occupants. It's 100%.
I can't imagine being put in that position where you had to take that choice, where you had to leave your children in your apartment to go and defend your own homeland. That will be the most difficult decision of your life.
Unfortunately, I cannot evacuate them from Kyiv now because roads are also dangerous, and we are not sure that the road will be safe for us. And even all the talents and all the experience we have in driving cars will not help us. No.
Just you mentioned earlier on that you'd had some messages from fellow co-drivers. Are you in touch with Yuri? I know that Yuri no longer lives in Kyiv. Are you in touch with Yuri? Has he been able to give you any support?
Yuri called me yesterday. Yeah, he's ready to have my family. He lives in Spain now, so he is working also to support Ukraine, to support his family, my family, etc. But you know, the point is, as far as we have martial law here in Ukraine, no one can. No man from the age of 18 till 60 can leave the territory of Ukraine. And I would say, even if I had, I have some legal opportunities to make it. I have I don't want to give you some details, it is boring, but I have legal opportunity to leave Ukraine now with my family. I will never leave. Because if I have a safe chance to make my family, put my family out of Ukraine, I will try to make it. But I have a problem. I have a wife. She said that she never leave.
Yeah.
You know, if I can also make a quotation from our president, from Volodymyr Zelensky, when Americans ask him, "Do you need?" Do you want if we pick you up from Kyiv and evacuate? He said, "I don't need a taxi, I need ammo." Yeah. So, yeah, this is guy. A week ago, like 8 days ago, he had support about 30% of Ukraine. Now he has 90% of Ukraine in his support.
It is quite.
The idea of Ukrainians now is that we don't need a taxi. Okay, yeah, for sure, we have people who need to be evacuated, about 1 million of people now in Poland, in Romania, in Slovakia, and thanks to our friends from that countries who help our people there. But normal position of people here in Kyiv, in Kharkiv, who is suffering with the Russian missiles every hour. Yeah, for the last hour, here in Kyiv, we had 10 raid alerts. 10 times. It's like woo, all over my city. Yeah, we have these applications who show us the direction to shelters and etc. Yeah, it's a completely new reality we are living in.
Yeah, and it's a reality that no one expected to have to live in, particularly your young children. You know, they had no expectation, and you know, it's wrong. It's wrong that we put your children into that position, or that the Russians have put your children into that situation. I have to say, you know, we really appreciate your time. I don't know what we can do to help, but anything we can do to help, you know, just ask.
well, the only thing we need now is closing the sky. We demand it from NATO, like it was in Syria, that no flights in our sky, because without aircraft, Russian troops will be on the border. Today, one city, defenders near the border of Ukraine and Russia, they put Russian troops to the border. So we are counterattacking now, like Yuri and I in 2014 in Sardinia. We are counterattacking now. So this is very inspiring. But with the closed sky, Russian troops will have no chance in Ukraine. They promised to take Kyiv in 48 hours. They will not take it in 48 centuries, I say. So pushing on NATO, pushing on local authorities, reposting if you can repost, calling to the fellow general, if you have fellow general, and asking them, pushing on them to close the sky is our praying and our demand and our call to the vote. We need to have our sky closed, because missiles who target kindergartens or who target schools or who target civil buildings, it is not war, it is genocide. It's not normal, it's not legal. The Hague War Military Tribunal is already working, but we need our sky to be closed. It is very important for saving our lives.
Yeah. Well, listen, you'll be very much in all of our thoughts and prayers, and we wish you all the very, very best. And if it is at all possible, please stay safe and look after your children.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, David. I was happy to share our emotions with you, and thank you for your support. And thank you to all the motorsport, civilized motorsport world for your support, for your messages, for your reposting. We will win.
David, it's not easy to speak to anyone under those circumstances, but you have to say brave people, really brave people.
Unbelievably brave people, taking bravery to another level, aren't they? We blithely talk about being brave to drive a rally car down a straight bit of road, but that's on another level.
You get quite emotional about it, don't you? You do, because you and I are both fathers with young children, and we just never expected our children to come into this sort of nonsense in Europe.
No, we didn't, did we? It's just, and what gets you, Colin, is that a week ago, just over 8 days ago, life in Kyiv was not normal, but it wasn't far off, our day-to-day lives.
Absolutely.
You look at the university that was bombed.
Yeah.
9 days ago, there were lectures going on. People were sitting in the library. Now the building...
People with hope, people with intelligence, people with bright futures.
Yeah, and it's been shelled. And the worrying thing is that, there's not a blink of an eye. It's just another shell. War is here, and it's happened.
And it's sadly, on the face of it, quite indiscriminate at times. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go back to rallying. Sometimes it's hard, but let's go back to rallying. And we've had a couple of rounds of the championship so far. So what I'm going to ask you for is your FORZO, because it's time for it, the FORZO moment in time.
Moment in time. I wasn't in Sweden, unfortunately. I was unfortunately terribly busy elsewhere. My moment in time would, I think, have to be it's got to be Sebastian Loeb winning in Monte Carlo. But maybe the actual moment in time for me, was it Rich Milner jumping in the harbour?
Well, here's what I'm going to slightly disagree with you, and I'm going to try and be topical for once.
Really?
We are in the middle of Women's Month, so the moment in time has to be Isabel Galmiche.
You were talking about the previous two rounds.
Has to be Isabel Galmiche.
Yes.
Coming straight out of the maths class.
Yeah.
Our first event next to Loeb. And she wins the Monte Carlo Rally. That's just an unbelievable story.
It totally is. And for me, one of the things that perhaps we didn't shine enough light on, because we were so sort of, not distracted, but so taken up with Loeb coming from Dakar a few days before and then winning Monte. The job that Isabel Galmiche did, still, as the time passes, you still think back to it and think, wow.
How was it possible?
That was pretty incredible.
How was it possible to come from doing a few tests with Loeb and the odd event, straight out the classroom and into the co-driver?
And that's, testing, I was going to say, you could co-drive in a test. You couldn't. Of course you couldn't. What was I thinking of? But it's so different because, you read the notes, and that's really important on a test. Of course it is. But The driver has learned the road a little bit. It's
Correct.
not quite so reliant on those. And for sure, there is no timing aspect.
She did a great
Isabel
job.
Galmiche.
She did a great job. What I
Yeah.
was going to say as well is the point that Loeb made at the end of the rally. You know, the pace notes she read beautifully, but she got on top of all the other requirements.
Yeah.
You know, the tyre pressures,
Yeah.
all of those things that you actually
Yeah.
forget.
The
that
blanking
co-drivers-
plate at the front.
blanking- all of those things.
Yeah,
Any one of which you would have forgiven her for overlooking.
Yeah.
None of them she overlooked. She
totally
did
on
it
top.
absolutely. So anyway, I asked you what your
My moment
FORZO
in
moment-
time would be
and then I
Isabel
told you what
Galmiche.
I told you what mine was.
But you should also, given that it is Women's Month, obviously at DirtFish, we will have a brilliant interview with Isabel Galmiche, which we haven't actually done yet, but it will be brilliant.
Right.
Probably you're going to do it, so it will
I
be
can't wait for
definitely
that.
brilliant. And yeah, she will tell us
Yeah.
more about that incredible tale.
And as David said, it is Women's Month on dirtfish.com, and there's so much for you to enjoy every day. There's articles, wonderfully written articles, there's some great videos, some podcasts, some wonderful memories, and really, most importantly, some incredible achievements by women in our sport. And it's a lovely initiative, David, a really, really important initiative, isn't it?
Yeah, and huge shout out to two women, obviously to Michelle Mouton, our guest editor. A huge thanks to Michelle for working with us, and to Josie Rimmer, our colleague at DirtFish, who this was all her idea. You know, the middle to back end of last year, she wanted to put something on to, obviously it's International Women's Day through March, but she said, you know, let's expand it. And,
Absolutely.
you know, the fact that we've got all of the content on the website, but also we've got these 4 classes, 4 days in the school, which were for women only,
Yeah.
and sold out like that.
And the Women in Motorsport Summit at DirtFish.
Yeah,
I mean,
on
it
the 10th.
really is a wonderful celebration of really what is possible for everyone in our wonderful sport. What time is it, David?
It is FORZO time. It's nearly midday.
It's the FORZO one. It's time for, I'll get this right eventually, it's time for the FORZO one to watch. What is, before we get to Croatia, David, and I'm going to ask you then, I'm going to tell you what mine is, but what is your FORZO one to watch?
The summit on the 10th at that DirtFish. The breadth and the number of women that we've got to talk to, the experience they've got, the memories that they can impart to all of the people that are going to come to the school in Seattle and can watch it virtually online. It's going to be incredible. And it's such an incredibly worthy cause. Beat that, Colin.
I'm not going to. I'm going to ask you to remind us of the date.
March 10th.
There you go, March 10th, folks. That's one to watch. The FORZO one to watch. I think it's wonderful. I'm not going to add to that because I can't add to that. For once, he's trumped me. Folks, has been a lot of fun. David, I've enjoyed myself. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Absolutely. But
Time
I
to
think
talk.
actually the most enjoyable part about the whole day so far was Colin trapping his thumb in the fridge downstairs.
It shouldn't
very
have been
painful.
possible. It genuinely shouldn't. And I have to apologise to everyone. We're in FORZO HQ here. And it's quite a big building, but I'm sure even at the furthest recesses of this building, they could hear my profanities. It hurt. It stung. If when we get to Mexico, maybe I'm a fingernail less, you'll know what happened.
But I think we
caught
do
it in a
need to
fridge.
we do need to remember opening a fridge door is very complicated.
And on that note, folks, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
On our Time to Talk, it's been a delight. We'll see you all again on dirtfish.com.